Have you ever wondered why we recycle the same problems in the church year after year? Broken relationships, unresolved conflicts, inability to speak truth, false peace because we're concerned about being nice. Week after week, we hear sermons about loving better, but nothing changes.
It has been rightly said that 85% of Christians are stuck, stagnant in their spiritual lives. Pete and I were among that number, and he was the lead pastor. We realized not only was the church's discipleship shallow, so was ours.
Over the last 21 years, we have developed the Emotionally Healthy Relationships course to address this massive need. This 8-session video curriculum will teach you practical skills that will radically transform your life.
You'll look at things like your family history, going back 3 to 4 generations, and how it impacts who you are today. You'll also learn things like how to resolve conflicts in a mature way.
Thousands of people all over the world have gone through this course. It is changing lives and entire churches. This course will revolutionize the way you relate to God and the way you relate to people. Join us for a discipleship that actually changes lives.
All right. Well, welcome to Trinity this morning. Hey, all right. We got some extra music there. Was that? You don't want to see me dance, I don't think, because that then it'll be like mass exodus. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, welcome to Trinity. Thank you for a few moments of time. Listen, I want you to know that the sermon is only 2/3 the size of what it usually is, so you can breathe easy while we take a few moments to introduce you to emotionally healthy relationships, or what we like to call loving others well. This material's been around, as I said, for a number of years. I don't particularly, just my personal opinion, don't like the title of emotionally healthy. I like loving others well so much better. But this discipleship material, compared to other, pieces and things that are out there, so much of that focuses on our spirituality and our walk with God and what this relationship is like, us with God. What I really appreciate about this material is that this material is about our relationship with others. And how we relate, to one another. When it comes to the scriptures, one of the things that happened when Jesus came is that he actually put together as a whole picture of our spirituality what our relationship with God looks like and what our relationship with others looks like. You see, far too often and for far too long, people have continued to come to church and, had and gotten tools about their relationship with God, all while they became the most miserable people on planet Earth. There are just some Christians out there who proclaim to be Christians, but really, right, they're judgmental, critical, what other words did I have down here? Proud, defensive, touchy, unapproachable, and unsafe, And so what we realize is that Jesus put this all together, that all of this should be developed in our lives so that we're actually really good in our relationship with God, but we're really good in our relationship with others. We see that Jesus in his ministry and in his time, he confronted a group that was called the Pharisees. These Pharisees, they fasted and they prayed and they tithed and they were very dedicated churchgoers. But when it came to their relationships with other people, especially people that might have been different from them or even their enemies, they were way different. They were not reflecting God whatsoever. And so Christ came to them and he goes, these things go together, your relationship with God and how you relate to other people. But the fact is that the church, we don't talk about it all that much. And so we're going to spend 8 weeks doing that with you. In 1 Corinthians 13, Paul says is that you might do miracles. You might have faith that moves mountains. You might have incredible spiritual gifts. But if you don't have love, you have nothing. And so we're really looking forward, kicking off in October, this series that is called Loving Others Well. And what we're going to give to you is just some pieces, some tools on how you can begin to relate to other people. It can begin right in your own house, with your own marriage, to your husband, wife, to your kids, but then out from there, how is it that we not only glorify God with our activity in church, but how do we glorify God in the way that we're able to relate to other people? So we're really looking forward to sharing this with you, and just can't wait for this coming up.
So this will be our sermon series for October and November. It will be Loving Well. We're going to teach it together. Christopher will kind of have the scriptural part of it, and I'm going to give you a tool. So the tool that you learn on Sunday is what you will learn more about in your group. And so Christopher and I came across this when this was just coming out. Christopher was on sabbatical, and so we were privileged to go down and actually have the conference with Jerry and Pete Scazzaro. And so we have been kind of traveling with them for many years. Up until that point, I had never learned the things that I have learned in this discipleship series. And so for me, it was very life-changing. And so I can't wait to share some of the tools with you. One of the things that they say is that even though Jesus is in your heart, Grandpa's in your bones. And so what happens is we only know how to act and react out of our family of origin. Like, that's really all we know. And now all of a sudden we become a Christian, we get adopted into God's family, and God has a different way of relating with people. And so it's kind of learning what is God's way, because we're in this new family now. So we are a new family in Christ, but we still kind of bring our family with us. And so we have, I hope it will show, the 8 weeks that we're going to go through. And so let me just kind of quickly give you just a picture of what this is going to look like each week, and what you're going to learn. So the first thing is just finding our voice. How many times do we just jump to conclusions when somebody else does something? And sometimes in order to kind of just, and depending on our personality, we might just kind of avoid that person so we don't have to deal with it, or we might kind of express our opinion in a way that's maybe not healthy. Here's an example. When the kids come home, they leave their shoes all over the mat in front of the door. And when I walk in, I trip over them. So yesterday I came home really tired, and I tripped on one of the shoes, and the coffee that I just picked up on the way home spilled all over. So guess what? The first person in the house that I saw really had it. Okay, have you ever had, maybe an instance like that? And so those things, they happen at home, right? So here's a different way that we could learn how to find our voice. And sometimes what also happens in here, sometimes we just make judgments about other people without really kind of getting to know the situation, getting to know the person. We're going to learn how to unpack all of those things here. The other thing is that to stop mind reading and just clarify expectations with people. Here's a couple of examples. I texted someone the other day, and they haven't gotten back to me, so I think that they're mad at me. Or how about the one, did you notice that when Mary came in today, she gave everyone a hug except me? I think she's mad at me. How many times do we kind of think those thoughts about other people? And yet we don't really clarify what's going on. My goodness, maybe Mary didn't even see you, So there's just a lot of things that go on, but we don't always consider that. And so this is a great one to help just stop. We've been married for 29 years, and I still wish that he could read my mind, but he cannot. So we have to stop mind reading. We have to help clarify what our expectation is of someone else, and that really helps in any kind of relationship, whether it's our coworker or a family member or somebody at church. Then why is family so important? So here we kind of go back 2 or 3 generations in our family, and we learn about our family and why we are the way we are today, because some of us come from, some of you have very ethnic backgrounds. Some of you just have a lot of things that went on in your family, but it really influenced who you are today. And so we get a really good understanding of that. And what really comes out of this are the unwritten family rules that we have. So if you don't know what your unwritten family rules are, just ask your spouse, because your spouse will be able to tell you, right? Every family has some rules that are unwritten, and when you cross them, you find out, right? And so we kind of dig into some of those things and just help discover them, because just knowing them just helps as we go through. Some of those family rules are, don't get, you're not allowed to be depressed. Exploding in anger gets your point across. Don't show vulnerability. Don't express your emotions. Always be happy. These are some of the unwritten rules that families have, and we operate by them. And so just exploring some of these things, because it helps us understand ourselves better so we relate to others better. The other one is just managing our emotions. In the book, it's called Exploring Your Iceberg. And this is just really kind of learning how to understand ourselves a little bit better. Because I don't always know why I reacted the way that I did. And what this does is it helps slow me down a little bit. So here are some of the things, like, why was I so uncomfortable in that conversation yesterday? Sometimes we don't take the time to go back and reflect on that. But that's how we learn, and that's how we grow, and we figure out, ooh, there really was something there, and I need to deal with that. Or how about, why did I get so quiet when he brought up that subject? Or why am I feeling so anxious right now that we're talking? Why did I get so defensive when Jane just asked me that question? So when we get honest with ourselves, this is how we grow, just both emotionally and spiritually. So that's what we do in that week. Then there's incarnational listening. And basically, this is based on the premise of how Jesus came. Like, he was the incarnation, and he came to be with us. And so it's learning how to be totally present with somebody and really listen to them. How many times are you in a conversation with someone and you're trying to talk to them, and I don't have my phone, but, there's just still, yep, and you don't really have the attention of the other person, or you're not really giving the attention. And so this is just teaching how do we really listen to one another well and have that in a conversation. Climbing the ladder of integrity I have used many times. This is a great tool because we learn how to live a life of integrity in our relationships. Sometimes, here's an example. I really disagree with my coworker about a situation, so much so that I don't think that I can work with her anymore. I don't want to have anything to do with her. We're just never going to agree. Or maybe here's an example. My brother and I are fighting. He gets really critical of me, and he won't let it go. And I'm just getting really mad at him, and I just don't want to talk to him anymore. The ladder of integrity really is this great tool to help us learn how to have integrity in the relationships. And I have used this time and time again when I have a conflict with someone, because it really helps me think through what is really important to me, because what's really important is the relationship. So how can I preserve the relationship? And this is a great tool to learn how to do that. We may not agree, but what can we do to preserve the relationship with one another? So that's a great tool to teach us how to do that. The other one, this next one is a lot of fun. It's called clean fighting. So that day, you're actually going to come to church and learn how to fight. So that's a really fun one. Because a lot of us fight dirty. So we use sarcasm and the silent treatment, and we slam doors, and we scream, and we just avoid each other. That's usually the way that we fight. And that comes from our family. But in God's family, there's a different way that we can fight clean, and we teach you how to do that. And then the very last one is developing a rule of life. That's just learning how to make Jesus the center of everything. Because if we don't have a plan for it, it's not really going to happen. And so that's a great chapter on how to do that. So we would welcome you to join. We have 4 different groups. We have a morning, afternoon, and 2 in the evening. So I hope that it will fit your schedule. This book goes with it. If you're married and you just want to buy one, that's totally okay. But these are back at the Welcome Center for $13. You're going to get a lot out of it. Personally, I've done this 3 times. This will be my 3rd time. Every time I do it, I learn something new. So. Mm-hmm.